Okay. Oh, Jill is here. Yay, she made it.
Sorry. Yes, of course. The only thing going on in my life right now, I absolutely do not want to miss.
Great, great, great.
Hey,
And Jill is
Richard.
here, Jill Geisler, and she, I can make it, but she's here, which is great. And I'm great to see so many other folks. That's good. It's all good.
Hey, Richard.
Celia, Eric, yes, yes, yes. Barbara, Charles, Camille, yay. Marcia, John Watson, uh-huh. Okay. Anthony Wilson, yes, yes, yes.
Howdy.
And Pat Gaston, I see your iPhone. And Neil, I see your iPhone. I mean your name, but not your with no camera. Excuse me.
Hi, Richard.
Hi, who was that? Oh, there's Diana.
Yes, how are you?
Oh, wonderful. Now that you're here, everything is
Oh,
I know it's gonna be a good day.
that's nice.
I would want 600 bags for a 0.2 second panel. We're a little slow on boarding here. If anyone wants to volunteer these bags at this time, we still do some of the customer service. You can see me here, your written tag. But if you want to volunteer your bags,
Anthony has his
customer service or me at this time to get your bag
phone on.
checked. To your board.
Hello, Richard.
Hello, who's oh, Anthony?
Tony Moore.
Oh, Tony, there you are.
Hello.
Yay.
I'm,
You said
I'm,
you weren't gonna say anything.
I, I'm going to mute shortly, and I might have to duck out because I'm in an airport.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm glad you could be here for the time that you are. Okay, it's 1 o'clock, so we're gonna start. Let's see. Let me get my script up here. Do, 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 do. Okay, come on. Reset some links here. Yeah, let's see.
Leon. Hey, Leon.
Hey, how you doing?
It's good to see you, brother.
Who's speaking?
It's Emil
Oh,
Harris.
Emil, how are you? How are you?
Yeah, hello. It's good to
I
see
hope you're healing well.
you. Yeah, I am. I just need to shave, but I'm okay. You look good, man. It's so good to see you. Boy. I like this.
Hi, Hamil. It's Marcy
Hey, Marcia. Hey, girl. You,
and Leon. Hello.
Hey,
Hi, Marcia. How are you?
Leon.
How are you?
Hi.
Fine.
Yeah, we're waiting for Dick Prince to get it together here.
I know. We're sweating us to
You're
make sure
kind
we
of slow here.
coming.
You tell everybody to be on time, and you
Waiting a long
don't have
time.
the program rolling off.
No.
What's going on?
Been praying for you, Hamil.
Oh, thank you so much. Is that Barbara?
Yes, it,
Oh, thank you.
Doreen just left my house.
Oh, Lord, I saw she had a
Yeah,
birthday.
she said she's praying for you too.
Good. I'm getting there. This left side still trying to wake up, but
Oh,
I got the right side working pretty good. Is it cold up there, Leon?
Yes.
Oh man.
You say Illinois, then you say coal. Yes. Mhm.
See, I'm not used to being here quiet, so I start talking too much. It's
Go
good
ahead.
to see
We're waiting
everybody.
for Dick Prince to get it together,
I
roll out the
know.
program. Yeah,
Wait a minute, wait a
he
minute.
fusses
I'm
at us.
Yeah,
getting it together.
He
I'm
Richard.
getting it
fusses at us.
together.
We don't chime in at five
He went
times.
out there and got a haircut. Richard looks like he got a haircut.
I did.
I need a haircut.
Okay.
Leon.
All right. Wait a minute. We're responding here to messages people are sending at the last minute here. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, there's Lana
Oh, look
A.
at Jackie Green. Jackie. Hey, what?
Hey, how
It's
you
like an
doing, Hemo?
NABJ reunion or something. Yeah, Barbara. Barbara, you should be at church if it wasn't so much snow at Greater Mount Calvary, probably.
Oh yeah.
Did they have church today?
Yeah, they did.
Who was
I didn't.
online?
I don't go out. I try not to go out. If I see a snowflake out there, me and my no
Yeah.
driving self, I'm not gonna be
I
out
know
there
that's
trying
right.
to
I'm
get
from Florida. It looks nice outside, but I ain't going out there.
Oh, for God's
Okay.
sakes. I'll be with you in a minute. People are asking to join at the last minute here. So,
You need somebody help you log these people in.
well, actually, Jackie Green is to helping.
Oh
The,
yeah.
the problem is that they're sending messages directly to Richard.
Oh, yeah. These are other people. Right. Right. Who say, oh, last minute I decided to join. So let me get them. Uh,
Okay. My goodness.
Yeah, Neil Foot. Lord have mercy. Hey, Neil.
Lord have mercy,
Brother,
he says.
how's everything going, man? We got
Hey,
you.
Jose. Hey, it's Jose.
Hi, Emil. How are
Hey,
you?
it's good
Oh,
to see
Jose, we
you.
just heard you weren't feeling well.
Oh, yeah, no, I made it. I'm
Oh,
here.
good. Good, good,
Jose look
good.
good. He always look good. This is so
As soon as I
funny.
Trying
get
to
mine.
age, trying to age gracefully, Emil.
Oh, you have done that quite well. Man, look at this. I'm just enjoying it. Hey, Hazel. Uh-oh. Hey, Hazel.
Hey, Emil, how are you?
Hey, girl. So we know
It's good
Greater
to
Mount
see you.
Calvary. Hazel here and Barbara, that means the church is over, Greater Mount Calvary.
I was actually online this morning too, because I'm here in Virginia taking care of my mama.
I know. It's so good
Mhm.
to see. I'm just enjoying looking at all the faces. That's great.
We're ready.
Oh, yeah, we
All
gotta
right.
be quiet now.
Welcome to the Journal-isms Roundtable. My name is Richard Prince, and I write an online column called Journal-isms. It's journal-isms.com on diversity issues in the news business. This roundtable is an extension of that. We started the roundtable in 1999 when a friend of ours was leaving to pursue a doctorate. She said, keep these going, and we have. We met every month in various restaurants in Washington, D.C. until the COVID pandemic, when we switched to Zoom. Our participation multiplied, and we hope to have more roundtables that are hybrid, meeting in person, as well as having people attend via Zoom. Last time we were blessed to be at the home of the National Council of Negro Women, journalism organizations in DC and at the DC campuses of journalism schools. We think of this as an online breakfast or luncheon or dinner party with the purpose to network and to learn. Some of the networking takes place in the chat room, so those on Zoom, please feel free to make use of it. A special welcome to those on Facebook. Please leave messages in the comments section if you want to reach us. So here we are. I want to start off by raising a toast and thanking everybody. This is the 10th anniversary of Journalism's being an independent organization, and it's been a lot of fun, and I've learned a lot. And I did a quick check this morning. We've had uh, about 600 people who have beginning who have been supporting us financially, and that's a great that's a good thing. We're very happy about that. We need more, so if you know any foundations who would be willing to help us along to the next 10 years, please let us know. We'd love to meet with them and talk with them and tell us about our progress. So thank you all for supporting. Our board chair, Neil Foote, is here as well. Maybe he'd like to say a few words.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for taking your time this Sunday afternoon on a busy Sunday with all sorts of things going on in the world, which is why journalism's and these roundtables have been so important and really significant in so many ways. No one is doing the work that we're doing at the level we're doing, at the consistency we're doing over the decades that we're doing this work. So the fact is that for 10 years as a 501c3, all praise and kudos to Richard for the endless hours that he devotes to this. Really as a passion project, certainly not something that has given him riches because he'd be in the Bahamas somewhere, I'm sure. Uh, of course, thank you all for your donations over the years. We're at a critical time. We have been grateful over the last several years to get some significant foundation donations. But as you can imagine, the foundation world and the giving world is pivoting, and how we get those dollars and how we get foundation grants submitted and proposed is increasingly boiling down to relationships. Many of the foundations have closed the doors to open rounds of funding and really are doing invitation only. So that's all tied to who you know, how we can get in the door, and how we could present a significant proposal. So you will see in the months ahead some updates to the website, some improvements to our fundraising platform, and really some strategic efforts to really build the foundation financially for this organization to keep us going. Again, Richard is really doing this because he loves to do this. So what we want to do is sustain this. We want to build this as a legacy. We want to get to the point where there's enough resources in the bank that says when Richard decides to say, you know what, I love this, but I just really want to show up on Sunday and be a participant and have someone else do all the hard work. We want to be able to give Richard that leeway to do that. So stay tuned for more messages. Richard's invitation is sincere. If there are people, whether that's foundations or individuals, what we do know in this counter narrative to the crazy world we live in, that there are people who believe in what we do, that we've withstood. Some of you have covered the stories that have challenged our rights, our civil rights, who have covered race matters over the years, and we know we can sustain ourselves through this. We have to get in front of the folks who believe in what we do, who are willing to support what we do to continue to sustain this great work. So thank you again. Looking forward to great conversation, and toss it back to you, Richard. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to underscore we're doing this really to make a difference, really, not to make money like others might be. And we want to, we're about diversity issues in the news business, and it's been a continuing issue for decades, and we want to make progress, and we want to be part of that progress. So thank you all again. I see Jill Geisler's got her hand up.
That was by accident, but I was waving at you, Richard.
Thank you.
Congratulations on 10. Bye.
Thank you. I do want to extend our condolences to Benita Bing, who was our producer for a long time, and also as a photographer. She also has the Exposure Group of African American photographers here in DC. She lost her mom last few days, and that's caring for her has been one of the reasons why she hasn't been with us for a number of months. But we want to extend that condolence to her. So I think there might be some members of the Exposure Group on this call, which is a good thing. All right, now everyone knows about what's been going on at the Washington Post, and we're fortunate to have Michael Brice-Saddler with us, who is a local reporter who just got of Black journalists. So I wanted to have Michael just tell us what he thinks the rest of us should be thinking and doing at a time like this, particularly those of us here in DC, and also answer a few questions from anybody who has them. So, Michael, take it away.
Thanks for the introduction, Richard. Man, that's a big question. I mean, what do we do in this moment? It's a little bit scary, I think, to see the erosion, particularly locally in DC, of news coverage. You have a really rich, diverse community across Washington, across the Washington region. And then we've seen over the past couple of years, local news in DC is extremely relevant to what's happening federally and across the country. We've seen intervention. We've seen DC used as a testing ground for federal policy. So just taking away or gutting the metro section as they've done, 40 something reporters, which was already a fraction down to 12 or 10. I feel sorry for my colleagues who are left. And I think, it's important for us to be thinking about how we can continue to support the people who are remaining, because they're going to be steadfast in trying to put a paper out every day to report the news as best they can and fill in the gaps. So I think the conversation is, how do we maybe express rightfully our displeasure with some of the decision making, maybe on the hands of Jeff Bezos, and then on the other hand, how do we continue to support the journalists who are covering our local communities, who are abroad, who are continuing to do that work that is still award-winning, amazing, incredible work coming from my colleagues who are still at the Post.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Anybody got any questions for Michael?
Yeah, Michael, I think you're also with the Guild, is that right?
I'm formerly vice chair. I'm a member now.
Okay. I'm with SPJDC, our local chapter. Please get in touch. We would really like to support you in any way possible. Even if it means just giving you a place to have a beer and talk with one another, or to think of a future with something else to replace the Post.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be called the Washington Post to do a better job covering Washington, especially. And I agree entirely with you on local coverage. And I also just read your story about Dementia Man, and it was amazing. You're a terrific writer, which I don't have to validate that for you. And but just please get in touch with me. I'm easy to find. Richard knows how to find me.
Mm-hmm.
And know that we'd really, really like to support you in any way we can.
That's
Okay, I see
incredibly
John
kind.
Yearwood has his hand up as well.
Good morning, Richard. How are you? Good afternoon. I'm thinking as we have this conversation about you having Matt Murray on the roundtable some years ago.
Mm-hmm.
One could have imagined this at that time, given the sense of optimism that he had in the conversations that we had with him. But I wanted to, I don't know if Rebecca Aguiar is on. She has a really great job list that everyone should be aware of. And she does a really great job of putting and collating a lot of that together. So I don't know if she's on. She can probably talk about that. She's often on the roundtable. But, I'm hoping.
Today on social media about the Baltimore Banner, which has expanded into Montgomery County and now is going into Prince George's County. And they need people. They need journalists to fill their staff. So that's another possibility for some folks. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Oh, Gabrielle. Gabrielle.
Hi there, everyone. My question is, there were some posts on various social media about Jeff Bezos being approached by outsiders to pair off the sports and local. I'm wondering if there's any truth to that. And I'm wondering if it's very early days and everyone's trying to get their feet steady again. If there's any thought for the folks who were let go to come up with ideas on their own about how they can forge forward with perhaps a new idea, a new outlet.
Yeah, thanks. I guess so. To answer your last question, I mean, the staff right now, you have a range of reactions and people, I think, still in the immediate aftermath of this
Sure.
really horrific, I think, life-altering change for people. I mean, I came to the Post as an intern in 2018, having graduated from Maryland, thinking that I wouldn't have to deal with the newsroom layoffs and such because, you got to that level. But as we've seen, the industry is just really in shambles. So, and then what was your first part of your question?
First part of the question was reports that there have been some individuals or a group or an organization that had approached Jeff Bezos to
Right.
spin off the local and sports, and I apparently did not get a response. I was wondering if there's any truth to that. If you
Yeah, I mean, I saw the same report. I mean, my colleagues did too. I can't speak to its validity firsthand, but I can say that it's definitely believable if we have seen the trends of how the business has operated over the past few years, which is kind of turning their nose up at opportunities that other news outlets, including the Times, have seized on. That is 100% believable and just really unfortunate. And I think speaks to the questions people are having right now about Jeff's level of investment and care in the product if those types of offers are just being flat out rejected.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, anybody else? Okay.
Richard, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah, I just want
just
to
Hamil, identify yourself, Emil.
yeah, Hamil Harris. I with the Washington Informer. I've been with the Afro. I was with the Washington Post for 24 years, and I'm a lot of places. But I teach at Morgan State now. But I just want you to know that there's so many people, Michael, who believe in you, love you, want to support you. Is there anything? Do you have a robust phone list? Context is everything in our business. How can we get in contact with you, or once people leave the Post or whatever, if they just want to just give you an encouraging word or some context on jobs, how is that possible?
It's definitely possible. I mean, I can put my email in the chat once we're done this part of the conversation.
Yeah.
And what I have seen and what's been heartening, I mean, I've not been laid off before. This is my only professional job. So it's still a little bit of a shock, I think. I don't
Right.
know what tomorrow's going to be like not going to the Post. So separating that from my identity within the community has really come out in a way that I haven't needed them to because I've had that steady employment. But now I'm seeing the dividends pay off as far as how I did my work, the integrity in which I tried to go about my job, and the impact I had on people. It's sad that sometimes it takes something like this to see that, but it's also been helpful in not thinking about the sadder parts of this.
Right. And also the universities, so many Howard and Morgan and Maryland, they're students hungry to get to know who you are and what you've done. And so that's very important too. And so I see this is your phone number right here.
Mm-hmm. And
Okay.
email.
All right, very good. And thank you, so we love you. And
I
don't worry,
appreciate that.
you'll hear from me.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Hamil, and thank you, Michael. Moving right along, we forgot to actually do the toast. So let's toast our 10-year anniversary of journalism, and let's also toast those who are leaving the Post and wish them well in the future, a prosperous future that's even better than the past they've just come from. All right, here.
Here.
All right. Thank you. Okay, moving right along. We all know about what's been happening in Minneapolis, even though it's been other things have pushed out of the headlines, at least the front page headlines. I see that today's paper, there's still more going on there. I checked out the Star Tribune and the Pioneer Press, and there's still a lot to talk about what's going on in Minneapolis, and also what should we take away, actually? So we have a nice panel who can elucidate that for us, and I want each of them to speak to that for no more than 3 minutes. but there will be three provocative minutes, I'm sure, and educational minutes. I'm sure they will be. So let's start with Sherry Curry, who is the co-president of the NAB chapter in Minnesota. Sherry, the floor is yours. Tell us what we need to know about this.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it, and I'm glad to join all of you. The one of the things I just kind of want to let people know, because I was in the courtroom doing Georgia Fort's um, arraignment hearing, and I just kind of wanted to, because a lot of things have not talked about so much as what was on in the courtroom. And one aspect that was interesting was having the prosecutor wanting all three of them to remain held instead of being released, and on the grounds of a crime of violence. And so it was, great to hear the judge say she did not believe that there would be a crime of violence, that there was not a crime of violence. Um, Happening in those cases. And then the prosecutor asked, well, okay, well, if they will not be retained, a condition on their release would be he wanted them to be able to stay away from the city's church and any of its parishioners. And he then kind of like follow that up with, he would release a name of all the parishioners, because how could they possibly know who these parishioners are? But he didn't want the parishioners to be doxxed. And again, in that situation, the judge said, you, you know, no reason for her to believe that George, who at this time was doing Georgia's part of it, that Georgia would go and harass any of the members of the church. So it's just interesting just hearing. I mean, I know that attorneys have to advocate for their clients regardless, but it's just unbelievable in some aspects when you can see how, with a straight face, someone can ask for those types of conditions. And that's just another sign of what these journalists are going through, not just the independent journalists on the ground, but also those who are with some of the mainstream publications in town. And so others here on our call from Minnesota who are actually reporting and overseeing those who are doing this work and speak to it more particularly. But just hearing, our journalists are being pepper sprayed. Someone was shot in the foot. We still have to go home. They have to go home and still have a life with their family, and yet still get up the next day and try to cover these stories. So it is highly emotional, and we're hoping that we can send as many of our journalists and help them go to the national convention in Atlanta this year. So outside of supporting Georgia directly from georgiafort.com/support, we're also hoping to raise some money to get as a chapter, to get some of our members to attend, and taking donations at nabjmn.org/donate as well. So, but thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Deshaun Drew is on Minnesota Radio, and we've been talking about the coverage. And so he's an expert on the coverage. How has the coverage been from NPR? And what would you like the rest of us to know about the whole situation?
Yeah, I think the coverage has been excellent. I want to note that Darius Walker is also on the call.
Yay, Darius! I wanted to
Darius,
say
there we
hello
go.
to
Yeah,
Darius because he has
yeah.
been he was a roundtable regular for us while he was in DC, and so it's good to see him again, and good to see him in good hands with you, Deshaun.
Thank you. So Darius, for all of you for context, Darius is our very new managing editor. He started on January 5th. So he came in as things were boiling over. That was the week Nicole Macklin Good was shot. It was the week that Tim Walz announced that he wasn't going to seek a third term as governor. Our community, our staff has just been through this never-ending grind. Even from afar, you're probably aware we had a state House member shot and killed, as well as her husband.
Right.
Early at the beginning of the summer, and then at the end of the summer, we had a school shooting at a Catholic school, Annunciation School. And so it's just been for people living here and for people, journalists covering this story, it's just been a really difficult run emotionally. There's just been no time to breathe. And, it's one thing to parachute into a community, spend a few days or a couple of weeks and then go back home to peace and quiet. It's another thing to be surrounded by it for weeks, if not months on end. One of the things I wanted to note was that our staff, it's audio journalism primarily, Minnesota Public Radio, the radio is in it, but like everyone else, everyone's multi-platform now, right? So we're doing a ton of work online, we're doing a ton of work on social channels and on YouTube, and just trying to be where people are. And I saw Faven Goretzka is on the line as well, and I apologize if I missed anyone else from our staff, but Faven is one of our reporters as well, and she's been at the center of a good bit of our coverage. Lives right near where Alex Preddy was shot and killed a couple weeks ago, and has played a central role in helping our community understand what's going on. I feel great about the coverage. I think we've been doing a tremendous job, both with the content that our team is generating in the Twin Cities, in Minneapolis and St. Paul and surrounding suburbs, but also across the state. As the name suggests, Minnesota Public Radio covers the whole state of Minnesota, and there's a ton of activity happening in smaller communities outside the Twin Cities, where a lot of first-generation Americans have settled. They brought a renaissance to some of those communities, and in other cases, just helped them kind of stay afloat in terms of being able to keep Main Street operating and their schools open. And yet, in this current wave, many of them are being treated not by their neighbors so much, right, but by the federal government as enemies and as problems, as opposed to people who are fueling local economies. So it's a lot of really important coverage happening all across Minnesota, including certainly in the Twin Cities. We had.
Sean, let me ask you this question: What made the coverage so good?
I think a number of things. We have, a large, talented, diverse, highly skilled staff, right? So our newsroom, after Star Tribune, I know Neil's on the call and our other Star Tribune alumni. I'm a Strib alum. We've got, about 90 journalists in our newsroom, and 11 of them are in greater Minnesota, so outside the Twin Cities. So we're kind of all across the state. We have, it is within the public media sphere. One of the, primo jobs is to come work at NPR because of the resources, because of the history of the organization. So we have veterans who've been doing this for more than 30 years, and we have folks who are, just a few years out of school, but the best of their class. And so they're telling really compelling stories. That highly encourage you to look at nprnews.org or to look at our social channels. They're getting it done, and they're putting the mic, and it's the way we talk about it. We're moving the mic around, right? So you're hearing from a wide range of people in our community who are living with this, and in many cases pushing back against it. And I'm really proud of the way our team has showed up. As someone I'm a New York native. Richard knows we grew up near each other on Long Island, same part of the world. But I've been out here now for more than 30 years, and I'm really proud of the way Minnesotans are showing up, because what's happening here is un-American. It's the antithesis of who we say we are. And I think the nation saw a good bit of this with George Floyd's murder, almost 6 years ago now. We're kind of in a way that I think is maybe coming to be understood, built for this. Like, this is not the place to come play. People are going to call you on it. They're going to show up for their neighbors. They're going to resist. And others from all over the country are showing up to support that work. And the last point I'll make, in my 3 minutes is probably up, is none of this is, and Cherie touched on it, none of this is cheap. We were looking at estimates of about $350,000 in additional expenses through the first 3 months between buying gas masks and the bulletproof vests and the ballistic helmets and the training and getting Delete Me so people are, aren't getting doxxed at the rate that's happening, and on overtime, building security, because we're daring to tell the truth. There's a subset of folks who see us as the problem, as the threat, right? So I bring it up because, as I'm sure you all know, public media lost over $100 million in federal funding just last fall. They cut the money voted to cut it in July, but then the spigot basically turned off in October. And for Minnesota Public Radio alone, I operate 3 stations, two music, one news. We lost $5 million in federal funding plus another $1 million in state funding. So not trying to pass the can in this meeting, but I want to just note, this is incredibly expensive coverage. Shereen noted that, there's, real danger. One of our photographers a couple months ago was shot point blank with a rubber bullet and tear gassed. That's still being investigated. And that was by the St. Paul police, by the way, not by ICE. It was at an ICE raid, though. And so there are very real dangers. And there's real mental stress that comes along with this. And the way I began, this has been unrelenting. Our folks have been doing a tremendous job. If you've not checked out their work, please do so. But we also have folded into our newsroom. Part of our newsroom is something called the APM Reports Group. They do national investigative reporting. So they've been leaning in. Some of them are here, some of them are in other parts of the US. They're scattered throughout the US, but they've been doing some tremendous work as well on what's happening here. So I'm really proud of the quality of the work and the range of the work they're doing, and for some of the partnerships we have. For those of you who know of Sahan Journal, for instance, they're doing great work. Some of that work is amplified on our channels.
All right. Thank you. I see Charles Hallman is here too, representing the Black press in Minneapolis, the Minnesota spokesman recorder. Tell us, do you have any sense of the Black community and how they're reacting to all this, Charles?
Yeah, we've been constantly besieged by all kind of stuff. Our headquarters is only less than a half a mile from where George Floyd was killed. And therefore the things that's been happening has been in our area. So we've been dealing with that, talking to young people. We know Georgia. We know Nikema, who got arrested as well about the protest. Deshae, I really applaud your coverage, and I've covered others, but I also hope that it could be expanded more. And what I'm saying by that is the extent of young people in this community is carrying fear. I coach high school basketball locally. In fact, right where, not too far from where Renee was killed at. And our kids don't want to go outside anymore. We got to escort them from the school to the Y, which is around the corner, to practice. I lost one player. The parent sent them out of state because of fear of what's going on. We had a game canceled because the white suburban schools didn't want to have their kids coming through our neighborhood. So it's been crazy. And I think those stories continue to need to be told. Our paper hopefully can do more coverage on that from a Black perspective. Obviously, we're a Black newspaper, and we want to basically start calling out our leaders, our so-called leaders and our elected leaders, to say, stop giving the perfunctory statements, but what are you really doing? What are you really saying? You hear they say they don't like what's going on, but we all don't like what's going on. But do there any kind of concrete steps to protect Georgia, protect Nikema, protect the other Blacks who are being affected by this? So, somebody asked me, Richard, have I ever seen this before? I'm old enough to remember Watergate. I'm old enough to remember Vietnam. I'm old enough to remember a lot of things, but I've never seen nothing like this before. The last time I've seen helicopters flying overhead was when I was in Detroit in 1967. A young man there doing those 41 days, doing the week of procedure. They want to call it a riot. I call it a civil disturbance. But it's been crazy. And the kids are, every day, kids are stressed. They're not going to school. It's just crazy here. And I would like that to be talked about more about the kids. How much is the effect? They still running the effects of what COVID did to them 5 years ago, 6 years ago. They still dealing with those effects. So therefore, now you got this going on. You don't know that you're going to get picked up. You don't know if you're going to be targeted, because we have a lot of Somalians in our school. We have a lot of Blacks in our school. And these knuckleheads that's walking around is picking up anybody. It even got me scared, to be honest. I changed my bus routes because the bus stop I usually go to, they were stopping kids. They were stopping people. And I'm a citizen, but hey, I'm Black. So I'm fearful that they could, and people want me to call every night when I get home to let them know I got home safely. So it's just, it's something that's a real fear, not as a journalist, but as a black man, a black citizen in this community. It's been really stressful, and I'm hoping that the world will continue to know what's going on here in Minneapolis. Not just, it's more than just the siege. It's the mentality that we've been targeted because we didn't do what we wanted. We didn't do what the stupid knucklehead in the White House wanted us to do. And because they're going after everything that's going on here that's black or that's not his favor. And so therefore, this is just one thing. But we will get through this like we got through everything else.
I hear that. Charles, what is the spokesman reporter reporting that other people are not?
Basically, we're looking at, we talked to businesses. There's black businesses in the area in that location where Renee was killed. The Somalian businesses in that area who so surely affected economically because people are not coming to those businesses. People are not coming out because they're scared. They don't know if they're gonna go to the store and come out and be able to go home. So we're talking to people like that. But my editor has suggested that we need to spend more time focusing on that. From a sports journalist standpoint, they want me to start talking to athletes, which I have, and prominent athletes that have give them more, ask them to speak more on it, just gives the company statement, which is we don't like what's going on. But how they're being affected by this. They are black and they live in our community, or they benefit from living in our community. So we're doing things like that. So hopefully my editor suggests that every page in our paper has something to do with what's going on, not just through the front page and the back page and everything else is about plays and books and things like that. So I like that. I like that. That gives us presence. And that's a mission that our black press has, that the report and continue to support the reporting that's out there from the mainstream, but go one step further.
All right. All right. Thank you, Charles. I see Neil Justin is here, our good friend. Neil is the television media writer for the Star Tribune, but he's also, as some of us have who go back that far, was also the final president of Unity, Journalists for Diversity. So he can take a multicultural approach to the coverage and what's going on. And I'd like to hear from Neil. Tell us, Neil, what do you make of all this?
Hi, everyone.
By the way, let me also say that Neil is the one who gave us our slogan. I'll pull out a quote for this, which is in the final, what's it, in the final analysis. Oh yeah, this is at the heart a story about racism. So you can explain what you mean by that as well. Thanks.
Well, I think there are wiser people on this call to address that issue, and are more qualified than I am. I think all of us in this room know how race is at the heart of so many of these stories. So I don't feel as qualified as most of the other folks on this call to address that. What I do want to address is something I know a little bit more about, and that is the media. And people have asked, why Minneapolis? Why is this story resonating around the world happening here? And there's a lot of theories to that, but I think one, and Dushan touched on this before, is the rich amount of media we have here. Minnesota Public Radio, as Dushan said, has about 90 people. The Star Tribune has about 250 journalists. We've got 4 of the best TV stations in the country, TV news stations in the country. We have rich regional reporting like the Spokesman Recorder and the Sahan Journal, and great independent journalists like Georgia Fort. There's not many communities that can say that. Certainly no city our size can say that. And I think you're seeing the benefits of a rich journalism atmosphere and how it can pay off in terms of storytelling. And that has been on my mind the last few days when I see what's happening in Washington and Atlanta. If this kind of activity had been happening in, say, Pittsburgh or Portland, they would have a harder time getting that story out in a way that would resonate around the world. So I think it's a reminder how important it is to have a full newsroom, or as close to it as you can these days, because it does pay off when these big stories happen. And we're seeing some excellent journalism because of it. So I think, we need to remind ourselves, it's just a reminder of how important it is to have a fully engaged uh, journalism community. And we're fortunate enough here to have that. Wouldn't happen if consumers here didn't care. They support organizations like Minnesota Public Radio and the newspapers here, and they also support papers like the Sahan Journal and Min Post and so many other organizations that rely on on funding and grants. So I think it's a reminder to ourselves and our community leaders just how important it is to have a robust journalism community.
All right. All right. Thank you, Neil. All right. Courtney Pfeiffer is here. Pfeiffer Kim, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And she's a longtime journalist. She wrote an interesting piece for the Boston Globe about what Charles mentioned about the fear, but particularly among Asian Americans. So I'd like her, and she now works in a nonprofit organization called The Future of Us. So Courtney, I'd like you to expand on that and tell us whatever else you think we need to know.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I just, so just for context, I live about a mile away from the Annunciation shooting, a couple miles away from where Alex Preddy was shot, a couple miles away from where Renee Good was shot, a couple miles from George Floyd. So I kind of live right in this neighborhood where this is happening. And I have to just commend all the journalists in Minnesota on a tremendous job that they're doing under these conditions. It's just been just tremendous, and they should just all be really proud of the work that they've been putting out and telling these stories. Just to kind of go on with what Dushan was saying, I think NPR has done an extraordinary job meeting people where they are and telling stories with just very, really just important context to it. So I'll just add that to it. So for me, what I've been seeing here is that for the Asian American community, I think what we've struggled with for a long time is visibility. And so in the beginning of this, we were kind of ignored in this process. We had Jacob Fry coming out saying this is happening to, the Black community and to the Latina Hispanic community, and really excluded the Asian American community for quite a few weeks. Even though we had people testifying to, House committees saying that people who had been detained said these ICE agents were saying, we will give you legal help if you will point out where the Asian people are in Minnesota. And so we had testimony that this was happening, but it wasn't really being acknowledged in a long time. So it started adding to this narrative that Asian Americans are not being harmed or threatened, which is, very untrue, until we had a very public case with a Hmong elder being dragged out like in his boxers in the snow, and then that's when it kind of came on the radar. But he was not the first and definitely not the last. So it just kind of fed into this narrative where it's not happening to the Asian American community. So that I think would be the first point. The second one is I think that there is a question of being believed. I think if you're living here and experiencing it, and then having people from outside believing, like, is this rhetoric? Are people like being overly dramatic? When I was writing that piece for the Boston Globe, and I was pointing out that ICE agents are saying things that sound threatening to us, such as, have you not learned yet? And so when I was working with the Boston Globe, they said, well, that ICE agent, they didn't sound threatening. They didn't sound like they were taunting anyone. They just sounded like they were tired. And so they're making these kind of assessments about what's happening on the ground to us in a way that they just are not understanding that when someone says these things to us, and we've been witnessing people being killed on our streets, that you don't have to say it loudly in order for it to be a threat to people, for people to take it. So I think that was another big piece that I learned about having people outside the community believing the experiences and the harm that is being inflicted as we're living in this occupation. And I think the third thing I would like to point out is that there are just kind of the thing about making broader connections about what's happening. This ICE occupation, this federal occupation in Minnesota, is not the only thing that's happening, and that it's just one thread in the administration's attempt to really make Americanism defined by whiteness, centering whiteness in that. And so you have all these kind of different threads. We've got these ICE raids, we have denaturalization. You know, the Trump administration saying we need to find 200 people to denaturalize every month, which is extraordinary. And we've got birthright citizenship being threatened. And, you know, the Supreme Court's going to hear that case in April 1st. And so these are all multiple different strands about what's happening on the threat of democracy and Americanism here. And I just don't want people to lose sight of this is this terrible thing that's happening in Minnesota, but it's just one thread of what the administration is doing in order to create a very white Americanism. And if, you know, the reason why they're asking people who are not white in Minnesota to carry their papers and prove their citizenship is because they want everyone who is not white to really know that they are not respected as citizens. And so we have to prove this. And so I carry my papers and I'm an American citizen. I have my son carry his papers and he has to ask himself every day before he leaves school, like, is ICE around? Do I have to look at my app? And do I need to know? And there are times where I've called the coffee shop a block away from our school to say, a block away from our house to say, is ICE around? Because we see them on the app. And they will walk outside and they say, no, we don't see any agents right now. And I'll say, okay, you can walk home from school. It's safe enough. We don't see agents right now. So I just kind of wanted to kind of give those different kind of perspectives about what it's kind of like here, and that there are just so many big threats here that I just don't want us to lose sight of as just journalists and Americans.
Thank you. I think you answered Neil's question as well. Uh, be with us. She had an emergency. She's with the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press. They issued a legal guide, and you should have the link to that in the emails that was sent out. But we also we don't want to leave out the whole issue of press freedom here. So Seth Stern is here from the Freedom of the Press Foundation, and he's a First Amendment lawyer. And Seth, I wonder if you want to address that whole issue of freedom of the press and how that fits into this whole picture.
Sure. Well, we're seeing efforts from Minneapolis and elsewhere across the administration to criminalize routine journalistic conduct. This idea of doxing, which used to mean publishing, a private citizen's social security number, now means, according to the administration, recording or publishing a government official's face. And they're going to great measures to create this narrative. The guy in Chicago where I live, who supposedly had put bounties out on ICE agents on behalf of the Latin Kings, was acquitted last week. The government retreated from claiming that he had anything to do with the Latin Kings. The whole case was based on some Snapchat messages. A transcript came out last week showing that the deputy field director, Sean Byers, who had told the court that he was under such threat that the court sketch artist couldn't sketch his face because he had taken such great measures to shield his identity online, and someone might find him if there's a sketch of his face. His LinkedIn profile had his name, picture, location, job title on it. So they're really going out of their way to create this frivolous narrative that there's this unique threat to officers that justifies suppression of routine news gathering, photographing, recording officers. In the case of Lemon and Fort, following news into a very publicly significant setting and simply interviewing people is being considered obstruction and a violation of federal law. Following cars, following ICE agents' SUVs is being considered obstruction, not only in courts of law, but in these very public and chilling tweets that are being sent out by DHS and Kristi Noem and others. So I think it's a really deliberate effort to confuse the public about what reporters are and are not allowed to do, and to create this this concept, and it also extends to the national security space separately, where, publishing leaks, obtaining leaks is now becoming a crime. And they're advancing these theories in court, but they're also advancing these theories in the court of public opinion so that people start to think twice, because now we rely on so many citizen journalists. There aren't enough professional journalists to film every controversial arrest, detainment, assault, protest tactic by ICE agents. So citizen journalists too are left to wonder, am I actually entitled to film these people with my iPhone? I mean, every court of appeal says you are, but the government's Twitter account says you're not. And more specifically with the arrests at the church, I think the phase we're entering into now, the initial outrage by everyone who realized just sort of instinctively that it is not normal, not only for journalists to be arrested for doing their jobs, but for the administration to try in three different courts to get them arrested, to travel to another state to arrest them. You saw Lemon said in his interview on Jimmy Kimmel's show, he offered to turn himself in. That wasn't good enough. These people are trying to make television. They wanted to do it in a dramatic fashion. People, I think, instinctively realized how normal that is, how abnormal that is, but now we're getting like the wave of mostly lawyers trying to sort of show off their big brains by trying to find weird ways to rationalize it and make it seem like, oh, well, maybe he did violate this provision of this section. And we need to respond to that by saying, first of all, no, he didn't violate the law. You can, and there are plenty of legal arguments that can be made, but beyond that, even let's say he trespassed, it is not normal to track someone down in another state and have the attorney general herself involved in conduct that amounts to trespassing. Let's not pretend that this is just like a standard gotcha legal case. Like this is a political statement, not a legal issue, and let's not forget that as we talk about it, and let's not dignify these silly arguments about, well, did he violate Section 2B of the FACE Act when he didn't leave the second he was asked to leave, or did he graze the pastor's pocket with his hand as he interviewed him? No, who cares? That's not what this is all about. So I anticipate that's going to be sort of the next phase of the discourse on that.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Now I see Jose Antonio Vargas is here.
Oh.
Hey.
Oh,
And yes, how you doing? Well, Jose was with us earlier when he was in DC, and we're glad to see him back. And of course, he was also at the Washington Post. But this is all part of the whole anti-immigration campaign that the Trump administration is doing, and that is right to the heart of Jose's Define American organization. So I'd like him to address what this has to do with his perspective on this, particularly in terms of immigration and the anti-immigration crusade.
Thank you, Richard, for inviting me. There's a lot to say, but I'll keep this really brief. I'm not sure if everybody here has seen. I'm putting a few things on the chat. This right here is all basically the relevant data you need to know about the immigrant population in Minnesota. And Minnesota has always been a very interesting state because you have a very diverse group of immigrant population, right? You got Mexicans, you got Indians. It's a very multiracial immigrant population, which is really not the case in most states. At Define American, we kind of, and you should know, I founded this organization 15 years ago. And the whole goal, so crazy, 15 years ago, and the whole goal was how do we humanize this conversation on immigration? And how do we be guided by the fact that this is at bottom a racial conversation? So I was really glad. This may be the only roundtable I've been a part of that's journalism oriented that is calling it exactly what it is, because it is about race. And I think from the very beginning, the hesitancy of newsrooms led by mostly white people to tackle the race part of this is what has really allowed, when I started doing this work in 2011, this is what we were talking about. When you dehumanize immigrants, this is what happens, right? And we're seeing now in real time what Trump 2.0 can really do. So this has all the data you could possibly want. I also wanted to share a couple of reports that we've done at Divine American. This one that I just put is a great replacement report. It's basically all about the really the intellectual argument that Stephen Miller has been making really since they wrote Project 2025, which is that there's too many immigrants and they're replacing us, right? Almost 1 out of 10 people in Minnesota is an immigrant, almost 1 out of 10, right? This, by the way, this framework, this great replacement framework, has a great replacement media ecosystem that backs it up, right? That's why it doesn't, that's why the president, the vice president, who's married to a first generation Indian American woman whose grandparents, I mean, whose parents came here on a, because of the 1965 Immigration Act, that intellectual framework that they have comes with a media ecosystem that, in my opinion, in the years that I've been doing this work, finally now you see that news organizations are connecting the dot between race and immigration in a way that, in my opinion, that they haven't really been doing these past few years. So this is a really interesting report that gets at that. And then the last report I'll share with you is in 2022, we spent a whole year Define American in North Carolina. We had a woman who was an immigration reporter at the New York Times, Liz Robbins. She wrote a report because North Carolina, like Minnesota, is 1 out of 10 is an immigrant. So if you live in North Carolina, how would you hear about immigrants or immigration? The challenge, of course, back then is that there weren't, our report showed that less than 3 full-time immigration reporters were there in North Carolina. So whenever you hear about immigration, it's usually from what the politicians are saying or what Trump was saying. It's not about here's the immigrant that opened the business. Here are immigrants of all races forming a soccer league. Here's the restaurant that just opened that introduced you to Vietnamese culture. So we did this report to actually show what happens when you don't have immigration reporters thinking of immigration outside of the political lens. And what's really great about the report is it actually shows what can we do to be better. So, for example, it was really great to see how collaborative newsrooms in North Carolina were being. This was back in 2022 on immigration coverage, and actually, that was one question I had here, given that we have a lot of people here who are from Minnesota. What kind of collaborations are happening between newsrooms in Minneapolis and Minnesota? I'm just curious, like how is this moment? When I think of this moment, I'm reminded by that great book that really influenced me 16 years ago called The Race Beat. I'm sure you all are familiar with that book, right? I mean, that book was basically what did the journalists from the North had to do to go to the South to call it what it was. But of course, back then we had 3 television channels. Everybody read the newspaper and listened to the radio. Now we have an incredibly different fragmented media environment. So I wonder what kind of collaboration and cooperation is happening. I'm going to bring Vanessa Williams into this conversation because when this was all breaking out, Vanessa Williams, we all know Vanessa Williams, texted me and she said, "This is why unity should be around, Jose." She's like, "Where's unity?" So I was happy to have Richard say that Neil was the last president of unity. We saw some of the statements that was put out after the arrest of Dawn. We saw that. But outside of that, like what else kind of collaborations happening? So thank you, Richard, for inviting me.
Thank you, Jose. I think we talked about that report with a separate roundtable back when it was issued.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, now we're opening this up. Who has questions for any of the panelists? Oh my God, you are all so thorough, huh? Okay.
Yes,
All right. Well, let me. Oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
I'll dive in, Richard. This is
Okay,
Neil.
go ahead.
So I guess what I'm trying to get a picture is where we go from here, right? How does and maybe because I'll put it in the media frame, what are other ways that the media can expose what's going on so that the world is getting beyond these snippets from national news to really understand the really day-to-day drama. I don't think we're getting enough of that because again, the news cycle is so dramatic. Are there other ways that we can do that? And certainly with some of the research on this within journalism and those on this conversation today, how do we kind of amplify this daily trauma that is really symbolic of how the whole nation is feeling?
Okay, who wants to answer that one?
I can start just going back to what Jose was talking about, and I think we need to take a look at something like unity again. We're not talking to each other enough, and as Courtney said before, we'll talk about one group and not another group. We're all in this together. Racism is racism, and we need to work together again and set aside the issues that created a divide before, and that was, let's be honest, it was about money.
Yep.
And money's an even bigger issue now, as Neil was talking about before. Funding is tough. And all our organizations are fighting for the same funding, and it's creating a divide. And both on a local and national level, we need to be working together. We're stronger together. And if that's not a major conference where all the groups are getting together every 4 years, then let's come up with another solution. But we need to put aside money and politics and all that stuff that has divided us before and find ways to work together. And that starts it starts on a community basis and on a national basis.
Okay. I see Courtney has her hand raised.
Well, I was just going to say too, I think there are like one, send everyone, kind of what I was thinking. Some of the really compelling stories that I've actually seen it from the Korean media who sent people and the German media who have sent people. And it's like we just need so many witnesses on the ground just being able to tell the stories that are happening here. The Minnesota Senate had a hearing, and 50 lawmakers from 13 states came to listen to the testimony. And I was there in the hearing, and they were listening to people explaining what was happening, and they gasped. They audibly gasped listening to the stories because they could not believe this is happening. And so we need people from other places to listen to what is happening here and be able to witness it for themselves. I also believe that there are threads that we just maybe need to have louder. Like these racial stops, this racial profiling is allowed to happen because of Kavanaugh. We've got the Supreme Court that is allowing this to happen. And I just feel like we should be pushing back against that. Like, why is this okay? Why is this being allowed to happen? Why are these constitutional rights being really allowed to be destroyed by our own Supreme Court? So I just wonder if there are other threads like that that we should be asking deeper questions about.
Explain about Kavanaugh, though. I've heard the Kavanaugh rule or the Kavanaugh, whatever it's called. Tell
These
us about
Kavanaugh
that.
stops. So these Kavanaugh stops. So Kavanaugh,
Kavanaugh stops.
yeah, Kavanaugh stops. So he had a ruling that said that ICE can detain people based on if they're speaking a different language, based on if they look like they're not white. And, so there are these very, very, so simple things. He said that, that, that ICE agents should be able to stop people and that there are valid reasons to stop people basically because they are people of color who may speak a different language. And so this was supposed to be a temporary ruling, but this is what has now established this ability by these ICE agents to stop and racially profile anyone on the street. And so we don't have, the Supreme Court, like, I don't know why. I don't know how long that's going to continue to go on. And so something that was supposed to be a temporary thing is the standing law as far as I know and I'm aware of. So I just wonder, we need everyone to realize this racial profiling is happening because of the Supreme Court.
I heard that. Okay, Sherry Curry's got her hand up also.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to add about collaborations here in Minnesota. Deshaun had mentioned earlier about the Sahan Journal publication that's in town. It was founded by a Somali American over 5 years ago, but it's still really relatively young, but it's doing a great job. And the Minnesota Star Tribune has a partnership with them where they will publish some of the articles from the Sahan Journal, which primarily covers the immigrant and refugee community, which is how it started. And so I know, I mean, and Sean can maybe his hand is up as well, can speak to whether or not how NPR might be doing some of those collaborations as well. But I think we need to do more of that, and the same thing with the spokesman recorder as uh, targeting, for the Black community, having more of the mainstream outlets picking up some of the news coverage that's being done by the minority press. Thank you.
Okay, Deshaun, your name was mentioned, and plus you got your hand up.
So actually, part of why I raised my hand. So Shireen noted that, excuse me, that the Strib runs Sahan Journal content. We incubated Sahan. Sahan was a project that began within the NPR newsroom. We hired Mukhtar back from the Star Tribune. I'm not throwing shade at the Strib, just facts. He worked for us. He went to the Strib. He came back to us explicitly to launch Sahan, and we worked with him, assigned a full-time producer to work with him for a year and a half to help grow it from a concept to a growing thing. Then we rolled it out. We have a contract with them, so putting money in their pocket to help make the journalism happen, and we're among their biggest platforms of building their audience. So I bring it up because I think it's a prime example of how public media oftentimes is different than how we should operate, which is we know there are folks who don't necessarily start their day tuning in to Minnesota Public Radio to see what's going on. They're in other communities, sometimes they speak other languages, et cetera. So we intentionally work to help launch something that would reach parts of our region that we weren't as strong, didn't have a strong connection to, and we've continued to nurture that relationship. They've changed CEOs, their founder moved on, they have a new CEO. I also wanted to note in terms of collaboration within the region, we have pretty strong, healthy NABJ and AAJA chapters. And so the nice thing about that is, and those two chapters work together. So, you may not know, but like Courtney and Neil and Cherie and Faven, we're all connected and have been for decades. And so it's easier at times, whether it's training or social events. We're going to be launching the NABJ chapter here. We'll be doing a Black History Month event in a couple of weeks. It won't just be Black folks in the room. We've got really healthy, deep connections across our market when it comes to other journalists of color. We were doing Unity before there was a Unity. Other thing worth saying, we were having an annual picnic that brought everybody together, including the LGBT community, going back into the 80s. Because when I came here as an intern in 93, it was a long established thing that we continue to do today. So I think that's another important strength about our market is while it's not as, this is market 15 when it's warm, market 20 when it's cold. Excuse me, 16 when it's cold. Right. So it's not as large as some of the other markets that you all come from, but we are very close knit. We have a number of folks, whether they're native Minnesotans or transplants as I am, who've been here a long time and have deep connections with one another into this region. And it shows up in our coverage and it shows up in our partnerships as well. So we are doing training together. We are doing socializing together, which matters. I mean, this is really, really hard stuff. And so to be able to go for a walk with a friend or get on a call or whatever it might be, we're holding each other up in ways that really matter. And we are, as I said, I'll close what I began with. We know we're not going to reach everyone. We don't have that kind of hubris. We have a huge following. We have a large membership base, and there are still many people who don't start their day wanting what we've got. So we are working to amplify the work of other journalists, other news organizations, and to share our content freely as well.
Very good, very good. Thank you. I will say, Neil, that the South Asian Journalists Association claims you as well. So you want to talk about unity. And the National Association of Hispanic Journalists is planning its convention next year in Minneapolis. Is that right, Gilbert? Are you there? Okay, well, anyway, that's what I understand. So there is some more cooperation going. And in fact, there's another question in the chat room for Jose about the media collaborations in North Carolina covering immigration. She wants some examples of that. Media collaborations in North Carolina covering immigration.
Yeah, I can. Oh, can you hear me? I think I'm on. Okay. Um, what we've seen is ethnic media, for example, like Telemundo, partnering with not only the TV stations but the radio stations, right? And I think that again, I'm sure maybe that's already happening in Minnesota. I'm not sure. I just wanted to bring up a couple of points. And again, if you look at the report, it's a pretty thorough report, so check it out. I think it might be really interesting in various ways. A couple of threads I just wanted to bring up. I'm so glad that Courtney named how Asian people often get left out of this conversation. And again, I have too many data in my head. Nationally, at least 70% of all Asian adults in this country are immigrants. Asian people are more immigrants to this country than the Latino community is more immigrants to this country. And yet, that's not really the context you hear about. Even in the language we use, when people say Black and Brown communities are being impacted, I wonder when we say Black and Brown communities, do we include Asian people in that conversation? Are Asian people included in that framing? I don't know. I found that for a lot of people, Black and Brown means Black Latino, you know, Filipino, I'm Filipino. Filipinos, Cambodians, Indonesians, South Asians are not included in that framing, right? So I think this is a real challenge at the very top about language, and I'm sure unity, this was something that was already tackled before. But I think that's something that we have to get a we kind of have to get on the same page with, right? Because I think it starts with language. And to be honest, in the years I've been doing this work, it hasn't gotten any easier. If anything, it's gotten harder.
All right. Okay. Who else's hand is up? I can't see anybody else's hand here.
Me, Richard.
Okay, who's speaking? I can't see.
McNally.
Oh, go ahead. Well, go right ahead.
I apologize that I was not here from the beginning, but I had a class on Sundays. Hi, my name is McNally Torres. For those of you who don't know me, I'm not expecting that anybody's gonna know me anyway. I'm a long time journalist based in South Florida, investigative reporter. I serve on the NHA board and also on the IRE board. And I will tell you, I am very concerned about the state of the media and especially journalists of colors, because we know that every time there's layoffs, and I don't know if this was discussed before I show up, and I live through this and I keep an eye on every time there are layoffs, the vast majority of people who are cut are always journalists of color. That is just the reality of this business. And I think bringing back unity, and please let me know if anybody wants to create a committee or something to bring back unity. I think that it's time for us to bring back unity, because unity had a purpose. And I was a younger reporter the first time that I went to Unity, and it was amazing. It was back in 1999. The layoffs of journalists of color creates a huge deficit in the business, cause and effect. We all know we're talking about the lack of or intimidation of not using the proper context and wording. We know that this strategy in immigration right now by ICE is based on deep racism. Yet we don't see that calling them that. And there was a discussion about that. And I will say that happens when there's an editor in a newsroom who doesn't have the courage, or is a person that is not a person of color, so doesn't understand the ramifications of what's happening in the communities, because they don't even know the communities to begin with, especially the immigrant communities. I will tell you, and I will tell you that I've been in places where I had editors and they were so afraid to go to certain barrios because, oh my God, that's all the Latinos there. The shootings, we see shootings every night on TV. So God forbid, just like here in South Florida, Liberty City, which is a place that I never feel unsafe. But my God, all those people, poor people, they're on the streets. So I will encourage people to, to decide whether do we want to bring back unity. I think it's time for us. I think that we need to join forces to make some changes, because this is affecting all the journalists of color and the future generations, and also the state of the media, because I know that there's a lot of great work being done, and I know that we need to applaud the great work being done, but come on, guys. Sometimes I read stories that I don't feel better after I read them. Okay? Um, and 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 a great disservice is being done to the public. And we know that now it's difficult. We don't have 3 channels and 4 newspapers, right? And I think that there has to be a way for us to work together and provide support to those who need it out there. And to me, language matters. Language matters at this moment. Look what happened last week. This just week. What a horrible week, right? In America, you know, where the president of the United States put this horrific thing, and and I don't even want to get there. I just want to get ready for the Bad Bunny concert tonight, guys. Okay, because it's going to be epic. But my God, there has to be a way. There has to be a way for us to join forces, work together. Because right now, what I see, and I've been a leader in a lot of this group, is like everybody's running scared. Everybody's running scared. That's what I just see. People are quiet. They don't want to speak up. They don't want to become a target. I love what Don Lemon is doing. I love what Jim Acosta is doing. All these folks in Substack, how they have joined forces to cover the protests, which is something you don't see a lot in the mainstream media unless it's something huge. I got to give it for Rachel Maddow. She covered consistently the protests that are happening all over this country every day. And we're doing a disservice to the American public, period. And I shouldn't add myself to that because I'm very vocal about these things. But one of the most beautiful things that I saw in Substack during the No King's Day protest, it was to see together Don Lemon, Joy
Reid,
and also Jim Acosta, and there was something else. There were a group of them, all different backgrounds, all different colors, and they're saying, listen, we could have never done that with the networks because they were working for competing networks, and them getting all together to cover all these events all over the nation. To me, it was beautiful because it shows what this country is about. We are a huge tapestry of colors.
All right.
And we ought to celebrate that every day. And we need to fight against this white supremacy that we have doing what they're doing. Again, language matters, people.
You're here. All right.
Historical context, too. So that's it.
Thank you, McNally. Dee Bailey, I see you haven't said anything yet, so please take the floor.
Good afternoon. I'm Deborah Bailey from the Afro-American newspaper. So much for having this forum today. My question was related to statements earlier made by several people about collaborating together. The Black press has been covering this issue quite a bit, and the Afro has been covering this immigration issue quite a bit. We've unfortunately found that rather than collaboration, many of the mainstream media compete with us, and we'll be covering an issue in our community for a long time, and then when the mainstream media gets a hold of it, we appreciate the comment made by the person from, I think, NPR about the collaboration happening in Minnesota with media in indigenous communities in Minnesota, and we just hope that kind of collaboration can happen here in the DMV as well, between mainstream media and original media coming from our communities that often report on the issues way in advance before it gets in the mainstream media.
Well, especially now that the Washington Post is shrinking, that assumes even greater relevance for the people in the Washington area. All right, Gabby Gurley.
Hi, I'm Gabrielle Gurley. I work with the American Prospect. Piggybacking on the question, why is this being allowed to happen? The president has already said that they're looking at 5 more cities. I think 3 of those are probably based on some of his other comments or comments that have been made to him: Detroit, Atlanta, and Philadelphia. As someone who is in Washington having to deal with this, as someone who's from Philadelphia, And knowing Philadelphia, how that could get very strange very quickly. What should be our next steps as journalists, since there already seems to be new targets?
Okay. All right, we can get somebody can answer that one, but for now we go to John Yearwood.
Hey, Richard, I just wanted to endorse Neil Justin's comment, and also McNally and others who talked about, one way that we can, address these issues is through some kind of unity.
Well, give your own credentials as far as unity.
I'm sorry?
Give your own credentials as far as unity.
Well, yeah, I was on the Unity board for about 7 years with Neil and others, and I was treasurer of Unity, so I have an understanding of sort of the financial situation that sort of tore us apart at the end. But there are ways, and there are things that I think that we can do to sort of bring some kind of grouping organization back together, and I think probably within the various organization presidencies, if you will, there might be more of an interest in doing that. At doing that now, people who are more open to it. The other thing too, I attend 3 to 4 of the major affinity conferences every year. And if there's a through line in all of the comments from different people, is that people are asking, where is unity? We would love to do another organization, another meeting similar to the unity conferences. Of course, all of the various organizations have conferences for several years out. But then I think even ahead of that, there are a number of things that the organizations can do. But having said that, I just think that those comments about unity during this conference, during this roundtable, just shouldn't be lost. Thanks, Richard.
All right, Elliot Francis.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. I want to take this idea of collaboration just one step further. It's been my belief that for some time now, one of the problems we're having going forward with this administration is in news, in our profession, and particularly because it's been my experience that somehow many of news consumers forgot how to identify fact from fiction. Talk to people a lot and they say, well, news is this, news is that, and it tells me this, and I learned that. Well, I tell them, you gotta find fact. There's a lot of people who know how to transmit this to you, but you need to identify where it is. Now, of course, part of the reason of that is this rise, and it's been rising for some time now, in the independent media space, which I'm part of after 45 years of being in legacy media. So with that said, my advice, or at least my prompt to all the people in here today, would be to find a way to support your local independent reporter. There are a lot of people now who are coming into the space, as we've mentioned before, the Don Lemons, the Joy Reeds, and others who have the kind of training that you have. Many others don't. And it creates a confusion in the viewer, the reader's mind about what they should be choosing and how to find that fact. I suggest to you, if you have the opportunity to engage with an independent journalist, a reporter, and you find that somehow the basics may be missing with them, help them. Bring them along. They haven't had the training and the experience that you have. Share that with them so that they can be better in that space, because this space is growing and it has a lot of influence over a lot of people that we're going to need at the polls in November and beyond. So take what you know and share it with that person. Each one teach one.
I don't know.
All right, thank you. Neil's got his hand up. Neil Justin.
I just want to echo how important Elliot's message is. And there are people in this room that have the power or influence to have internships. And even in these tough times, I urge you to build on those relationships and to start looking at opportunities where we don't go the traditional route. I think it's a time when people that are in, again, positions to have interns look outside the top journalism schools, your Columbias and Northwesterns, and those are great. You're going to get great people from there. But we need, if we're going to look at diversity and people coming from different backgrounds, and Elliot says need some extra help, let's start making some room for kids that are going to community colleges, for kids that are not going to college at all, for places that don't have traditional journalism schools. They have a lot to teach us, and they can bring a lot to the profession. Will they need more help? Yep. Is it worth it? I think so. But somebody's going to have to take that bold step. Some major outlet like Minnesota Public Radio, like the Star Tribune, the New York Times, somebody's going to have to take that first step and prove that it's going to be that can be successful. And I'm not really seeing that enough right now.
Thank you. Thank you. I see Tanya Gazdick is here, the new president of JAWS, with Journalists and Women Symposium. I wonder if there's anything in particular that you'd like to say about this, particularly as it affects women.
Well, we've
I don't want to
been
put you on the spot, but
No,
go
no.
ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here
Okay.
today. This is my first roundtable. I'm very excited to be here, and I'm going to be at all of them from now on
All
as
right.
much as I possibly can be. I travel a lot for work, so if I'm on a plane, I can't be here.
Okay.
But no, JAWS has been staying on top of it, or trying to, and collaborating with NABJ and issuing statements. And we issued our own statement after I saw the video of Georgia posted on Facebook Live of the agents outside of her house and her children crying. And I was just so moved by that. And I immediately started typing up a response from JAWS, and I got my executive committee to sign off on it. And we had it posted, within a couple of hours, because we can't be quiet. It's just, it's too important right now. We have to be each other's voices when we're not able to speak. She's being taken by agents. Somebody's going to have to raise their hand and say that's not right. It's not happening on our watch. So I'm hoping JAWS can continue to stay active, and we haven't been big on statements in the past, but I think going forward we will be.
Okay. I wonder if this whole situation, maybe the people from Minnesota can answer this, has any particular effect on women as opposed to just the general population?
If I
No?
could speak up
Oh, go ahead.
so often when people are taken by ICE, a lot of times it's the breadwinner. And so a lot of
Wait,
women,
who's speaking?
I'm sorry, this is Courtney.
Oh yeah, Courtney. Okay, go ahead.
So what we're finding is that a lot of times the breadwinner is taken by ICE, and so, or the breadwinner fears they can't go to work anymore because they will be taken by ICE and they're in hiding. And so it has having a widespread effect on women and children, not being able to have resources, not being able to pay rent, not being in really financial trouble after their spouse has been taken away or they're under threat. And so we're seeing women and children being really adversely affected, and overwhelmingly so, and needing help with resources.
All right, thank you. That's certainly a point that needs to be made. I see
Richard.
Yeah, go ahead. Who's
Hi, it's
speaking?
Hazel.
Okay,
I just,
Hazel.
when you asked the question about women, I don't know, it's something has touched me pertaining to how women are being treated in the midst of all of this. And we've seen in Minnesota women picked up and thrown to the ground. We saw, of course, the woman's child being taken away as she was hiding inside, not able to come out because she was afraid she, at 4 months pregnant, could be taken away. We saw the woman shot in the face when she was just trying to get away from ICE. And so there's something that brings me to tears about the way that, of course, Black men and women have been treated this way for a long time. But in particular, it's like everybody is fair game in the midst. We're beginning to see that everybody is fair game. Women are not treasured. They're not being treated the way that we usually see them being treated. Usually that's hands off. Okay, that's a woman. Don't shoot. That's a woman. And don't shoot. That's a man. We should be saying as well. But something new has come into America pertaining to how all of us are being treated. I want to say what Cornel West said the other night, but I don't have the mouth to say it. But I'll say it. He said, this is the niggerization of America. That's what he said. This is like everybody is fair game. Everybody is being put down as the N-word because of one administration that is white supremacist. And those were his words. I'm quoting him directly. He was on Abby Phillip the other night, and he said, this is the niggerization of America.
Hey, Richard, you know what's interesting? I had to jump in with Hazel here. I remember when we first came together, we were in the White House, Lafayette Square, and that's when the Trump was trying to go to the church and they were shooting rubber bullets and all this stuff. But the thing that Hazel always reminds me, and Dr. Bailey too, Deborah Bailey, is you got the mainstream press. I don't even like that term, but you got the black-owned media. And before there was myself or somebody to post or whatever, there was the Afro American. There was the, Washington Informer. And to me, one of the last walls that need to come down is who owns this or who works there, because ICE doesn't see ownership. They see color and bodies, and blood is the same. And what I'm saying, when people die, you can't say, well, that's a black-owned press or is that a major stream press? It's somebody's dead in the street. And what I'm saying is that what I'm hoping, I know we're talking about unity, that's nice, but when can the black-owned publications owners sit at the table or sit somewhere in a tent where they can talk to the mainstream reporters who used to be mainstream? Because that's the largest group that we still kind of dancing on it, but we're not talking about it. And that's when you have a force. And we can't be cute about this. I mean, I've been with the black-owned press, the mainstream, and then everybody else stream. So I'm just hoping that coming out of this, you look at the people on this screen here, that brings us all together, But what about that meeting before there's a plan for a convention?
And I think, can I just add this,
Yes.
Richard? Celia alluded to this earlier when she was talking to Michael and encouraging him. What can replace the Post? What can be fairer than the Post? You got all of these journalists out there now. And it's like Ray Boone used to tell me, he used to say all the time that there's a story that must be told about Black people because the story has not yet been told. All you have to do is tell that story. And there's so many stories every day. What is happening in Minneapolis, Minnesota is happening every day around the country. We just happen to be focused right now on Minneapolis. But there's so many stories that must be told. And I'm hoping that Michael and some of his colleagues will get together and create a website, or it's, like Camille said, we can own our own. I've been doing it for 15 years. It's hard, but if you have a passion for it, you can do it.
Right. Speaking of unity and all that, Gilbert Baylon does confirm here that the NAHJ convention will be in Minneapolis in 2027, and also somebody else mentioned the AHA's convention is going to be there this year. That was Deshaun. So there are some opportunities for all of us to get together right at these conventions. All right, Jose has his hands up, and then Barbara Reynolds.
Okay. It's been really fast. It's been really tragic to me, how we have not been able to connect a lot of these dots. And I think for me, one of the unspoken things in the Latino community and the Asian community in particular is how anti-Black our communities are. And how you get to America, and
Jose Antonio Vargas.
this is just the context that I want to put this in. So, and this is out of Hazel, what Hazel was saying. So because of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, you had the 1965 Immigration and Nationality Act, which is why you have 53 million immigrants in this country today. 53 million. That is the most I just finished the book on this, and I see my former editor, Marcia Davis, is on this call, and she knows that I've been working on this book for 5 years. Marcia, I finally finished it. Whatever. So in this book, I actually chronicle where the 53 million immigrants are state by state. And the question really that I'm asking in the book is, are these 53 million immigrants, mostly Latino, mostly Asian, are they going to go white or are they going to go black, ideologically speaking? And I think we see in this election, we see when I was detained at the border when Obama was president, and President Obama was deporting 400,000 people a year, all of the Border Patrol agents were Latino, all of them, right? And yet, because of the lack of vocabulary in most newsrooms, they don't want to touch the racial dynamic of this. They want to keep it simple and make it POC or make it BIPOC or make it and not really get specific about. As a Filipino American, I'm embarrassed to say that half of Filipinos in this country are for Trump, right? I'm embarrassed to say that the Asian community, right, as we talk about BIPOC and POC and intersectionality and solidarity, you see where we go and where we want to go. This requires a racial analysis that Black people in this country have been fighting for forever, that right now is sorely needed and is right now is sorely lacking, right? Like if it wasn't for Joy, Joy Reid, Abby Phillip, thankfully they're still sharing their platforms and all of that. But I think we need a real racial reckoning that puts Black people at the center of the conversation, right? With Latinos and Asians figuring out what is this new thing we're forming together. Last thing, given Bad Bunny. So I was a reporter for the San Francisco Chronicle before I moved to the Post to be edited by Marcia Davis. And my proud front page story in the Chronicle in 2003, which is the Bay Area was one of the first minority majority regions in the country. Back in 2003, white people were already the minority in the Bay Area, right? Spanish was already the dominant language in California back in 1999, right? So but because the news media refuses to frame this in that context, we keep trying to be minoritized when in reality we're actually the majority, right? 67% of California is Latino, Asian, and Black. 67%. We are not the minority in California. We're the majority. And I think putting us at the center and then creating language around that, I think that to me is really the big question.
Okay. Barbara Reynolds.
Yes. I think that we also have to be thinking always of the children. Um, this hurts me so deeply to think there's 1,000 children in jail, and this is something that we're going to have to continue to hit. That these children, some of them don't have a voice, and if we don't stand up, there's not going to be a voice. And I think what my friend Hazel has said, I remember in Chicago when I was there working for the Tribune, and what I couldn't understand, I looked at the business page, and there was never a Black person quoted. I said, wait a minute. I know John H. Johnson started Ebony magazine with $500 that he had borrowed on his mother's furniture. Now, if that's not wisdom, if that's not knowing how to do business, I don't know what it is. So me and another friend started two publications, the Black Business Guide and Dollars and Cents. And then I think we should do more of our own. And I think we should use more of Hazel Trice Edney, who has her own wire service, because we cannot think that, and I like what Mark said, because we got to think, what is this about? It is about that in a couple of decades that white people will not be the majority. They know the statistics. Why do you think that they've got these numbers? We got to get 1,000 out, 1,000 out, any way possible, because they want the immigrant population that votes out, and then to self-destruct the people that are even here. It's like the Dred Scott decision is now for everybody, like Hazel was saying. Dred Scott's decision of Judge Taney said that blacks had no rights, whites had to respect. So now it is nobody has any rights that the ruling class has to respect. So, I just think when we're coming these stories, never let it not be that they want different minorities, so-called minorities, to split. They, they want us to not to know that we are important. This is why they're trying so hard to get rid of us. And some of us who are retired, we got to find a place to come back and stir up some good trouble. So,
That's what Jesse Jackson did. Barbara, you were there. You covered Reverend Jackson, the
I
Rainbow
know.
Coalition. Remember that one?
I
That
absolutely
was the
do.
coalition. Reverend Jackson
Right.
described this. And
Yes.
it got divided, and the tendency is those who are against this will keep us divided. Like Jose, said that, and both of our editors, Marcia Davis talked about this, and Hazel. We've been down this train track before.
Yes.
And now they're trying to make us keep divided. They'll take a unity, but how about breaking down the real barriers of who owns the shop?
Right.
Richard,
All right, Roger Witherspoon has got his hand up.
Hi, thank you, and thanks everybody for being here. One of the problems that I've seen over the years in dealing with different ethnic groups is that there seems to be an assumption that we all think alike, and we don't. The Marines, for example, have separate advertising campaigns, recruiting campaigns for Cuban Americans, as opposed who seem to be more Republican oriented and pro-government than, say, Mexican Americans who don't. And we need to recognize in our newsrooms that different ethnic groups view things differently. It's not all Asian Americans view the same way, or all Hispanic speaking Americans view the same way, because they don't. That's all.
Okay. All right. All right. Gabby Gurley is her hand is up too. Gabrielle Gurley. Oh, you didn't want to say anything? Okay.
No, no, no. My hand's not up.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Sorry. All right. Well, I wanted to now, somebody put a note here about WABJ, the Washington Association of Black Journalists. Is Phil Lewis here, or is that you, Michael? They wanted people to know about a happy hour they're having this coming Tuesday for the people who are being displaced. It's just for the people, not just people who are just being displaced from the Washington Post, but also alumni of the Post. So anybody who's in Washington should take heed. I think he's got the information in the chat room. Okay, anyone else got any thoughts on all of this? Oh, wow.
actually, I do, but I put part of it in the chat.
Well, you can say it for everybody because people on Facebook, for example, can't see the chat.
Well, circling back to what Courtney had to say about the Supreme Court.
Okay. Well, first tell us who you are, and then you can go on.
Oh, Eric Tate, Media Watch, currently, longtime broadcast journalist, ABC Network Television News, currently doing Media Watch bi-weekly, which I send to you to help us distribute, which you do. Thank you kindly. Appreciate it.
Glad to do it.
But Courtney was talking about Kavanaugh stops. And for my money, the Supreme Court has been getting a major pass from all media. And I think every one of these ICE stops should be reported with that context in mind, and it should be mentioned in every one of those stories. The reason why these unconstitutional stops are being made every day is because the Supreme Court has green-lighted these unconstitutional stops.
Right,
And
that's right.
if we do not tell the American public this every day, nonstop, we're never going to get the current competent pushback that we need. The American people are not clued in to the fact that this Supreme Court has greenlit the shooting, both shootings, these crazy stops. SCOTUS is responsible. Whether you guys think that or not, I definitely believe that. I'm pretty sure Courtney believes that. Most of you should be highlighting this in every story you write. These guys have been getting a green light. Now, I'm sure the three minority don't approve of it, but that 6-3 balance is what's caused this problem. And every story should reflect that every time, every day. That's my message.
If I could just piggyback on that for a second. Slate magazine did a really good piece on Kavanaugh, and a footnote to another decision is trying to back away from Kavanaugh stuff.
Yeah, but guess what? Who reads Slate? You do. I do. The American public doesn't.
I know. I'm just saying that as if you want to, as an information point.
Information. Thank you. Yes, I'm sorry.
That's an information point that if you want to have a note that Kavanaugh is trying to get now, he is backpedaling. That's where it is.
Yeah, but too late to backpedal because this is the carnage that he's caused.
Right. Right.
Hi, this is Cecily Counts, and I've
Yes.
hesitated to speak because I'm not a journalist, but I've been an advocate for decades. And I think the more we can do to educate the public about the connection between elections and judges, it's key because we still have Clarence Thomas. We don't have George Bush. It's not just Kavanaugh. They've been working to control the courts since the New Deal, but certainly since the decisions in the 50s that meant so much for us. They're against Brown versus Board of Education. They're against the Civil Rights Act. They're against the Voting Rights Act. And it's not just the Supreme Court. Few people understand how the right wing has controlled the entire federal judiciary from the district court level to the appellate courts. The New York Times had a headline about Trump's judges voting with him an incredible amount of time. And most people don't understand that. The only other thing I'd like to really add is that we really need to emphasize the diversity of every ethnic community. There's a difference between nationality and race. Some Black people could pass for South Asian. There are many Afro-Latinos. All of us, people of color, are in trouble because of Kavanaugh's decision, but we hardly ever see Afro-Latinos in the Latin press. Telemundo, they skew white. And the countries that are most vulnerable, that are being strangled by the United States and threatened by the United States, are countries with large numbers of Black people. Colombia, Venezuela, Cuba, they're being starved to death like Israel starved Gaza, people in Gaza to death because of the blockade. Those are Black people. And too few people know that.
Thank you. First, tell us about who you are. Some people may not know.
I'm sorry. I'm Cecily Counts. I worked for years at TransAfrica at the NAACP Washington Bureau and on immigration and voting rights and other issues at the AFL-CIO. I've been a lobbyist since 1983. But these are all issues we struggle to bring public consciousness to. Evidently, we didn't do a good enough job. There's a direct link between U.S. foreign policy and the reasons why people migrate. And U.S. foreign policy has a disproportionate impact on poor, Black, brown, and yes, Asian people all over the world. There are Black people in the Pacific Islands. Few people know that. Lots of people in the Philippines could be in the Black Caucus, but a lot of people don't know that.
Let me just point out that you
so important, Richard. Cecily with TransAfrica and Randall Robinson and the freeing of Nelson Mandela, we all were in the room. You know, at the Madison when Nelson Mandela came out. You remember that? And so this is a lot of history here. You know, and we've been down this road, Cecily, right? It's so good to see you.
Here, here. For those who want more information about some of the things that Cecily has talked about, we have on our website, on the journal-isms.com website, if you did have some Afro.
We need you to lean forward.
Oh, I'm
when
sorry.
You lean back, you're breaking up.
Thank you. I was saying that on our website, on the journalisms.com website, are back descriptions of the roundtables we've had, one of which was on what Black people around the world have in common. And we talked about this issue about Black people in England and Ireland and in Africa and in the South Pacific and various places. So that might be a good resource for people. And also we had one on Black Latino relations and how they are being, if they were being covered adequately. And the answer was no, of course.
Mhm.
But we did talk about the whole issue of Afro-Latinos and Latinas and how America. There is also an Afro-Latina caucus of NAHJ, the National Association of Hispanic Journalists, but we've been unable to get them to join us, but they do exist. So, all right, we have 7 minutes left. So, anybody got any concluding thoughts?
Before you wrap this up, Richard, let me let everybody know that I'm working with Third World Newsreel, the Black Documentary Collective, and we're going to launch an initiative as soon as we can finalize it and protect the website. That's hashtag 460 plus of us. And that's because this 250 birthday celebration that the white supremacists are planning going to totally negate us and negate who we were, what we've done, what we mean to this country. So keep your eye peeled for the hashtag 460 plus of us and make sure you help us organically, grassroots level, bring it to fruition. The rest of this month to the end of the year, we're going to be working on telling this country who we are by aggregating things through that hashtag. So be alert for it. It's coming. Then figure out a way to help celebrate, because without us, there is no U.S. Okay.
I heard that. All right, Cynthia Robbins has her hand up. Cynthia.
Yes, good afternoon. Once again, as ever, Richard, we thank you. It's been 10 years, and we hope many, many more of extraordinary roundtables and presentations.
Thank you.
I was moved by the last comment just to put into the chat a website, America's History, SOS.org. Why? Because Black history is America's history. And SOS because it's recognized as the international sign of distress, and we are distressed. It's an effort, grassroots, volunteer-led, to uplift the National Museum of African American History and Culture, the Smithsonian broadly, led for the first time by an African American secretary, Lonnie Bunch, who was also the first director of the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And all are under attack, along with the National Park Service installations that focus on African American history, et cetera. And so we launched a petition several months ago in the summer, and over the second quarter gathered somewhere close to 70,000, more than 70,000 signatures on it. We're hoping during Black History Month to increase that number. They've been delivered to the regents of the board of the Smithsonian and to members of Congress, but we ask that you all spread the word and get folks to sign it. And it is the first in a series of actions to be on guard to make sure that we don't let things happen to our history. So America's History, SOS.org. That'll get you to the petition at change.org/save Black history. I'll put that in the chat too. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Michael, are you still at Michael Brice-Saddler? Are you still there? See his name.
Hi, yes, I'm still here.
Okay. What about this Tuesday gathering for people in Washington? What should they know about that?
I'm not organizing. I know that's WABJ.
Okay. I didn't see anybody I didn't see Phil. Maybe he did that before he left. Phil. Okay. Phil Lewis, the president. Okay. Well, I'll just.
Richard.
Yes.
Sorry. This is Diana Fuentes with IRE.
Yes.
Another wonderful, wonderful roundtable, just full of so much wonderful information, some of which we will help distribute to our members. We have NICAR 26 coming up in Indianapolis here in March, which we hope to see a lot of you all there.
Okay.
But just wanted to once again, well, congratulate you on your 10 years and hope that there's many more to come. But just wanted to emphasize that IRE supports the work of you, what you do, and what a lot of people are doing. And we think the Star Tribune and the Post-Dispatch are doing great work, and we're behind them and do everything we can to support their work.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, Neil, one last question for you. Since you brought up the idea of unity, perhaps getting together again, what should we do to make that happen? Or what can we do to make that happen?
Well, I think it needs to start with the affinity presidents okaying a conversation. And as I said, I think the future is in young people. I think it needs to be led by young people who are not obligated on one of the problems that Unity had was the board was made up of people with numerous obligations to their own affinity group, and they couldn't focus enough on Unity standing on its own. So I think it needs to be led by a new wave of young people with mentorship and help from those of us like John and others who have been there. But it needs to start with the affinity president saying, yes, we want to work together and start a conversation about how we can get there.
Okay, so therefore that means that the members of those organizations should pass the word to their presidents and their
That's
board
right.
members. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Very good. Okay. Well, listen, thanks everybody. This has been a good conversation, and I hope people got a lot out of it. I see some nice comments in the chat. We're going to out all of the chat comments to those for whom we have email addresses, so you can mull that over. And of course, there was a recording made of this, so that will be available as well. And we'll write this up, of course, and so you can spread the word to all the important points that were made to people who you think should be aware of this.
Hey,
So,
Lisa Brock.
all right. Oh, all right. All right. So thank you all once again. I appreciate that you all showed up today on the Super Bowl Sunday, and may your team win, whichever one that is. Oh yeah, Jose wants to. Did you want to say something? Or you just wanted to wave? Okay. All right. So
Support
anyway,
Richard, everybody. Support Richard. Support journalism.
thank you.
Right.
Thank you. All right. So thanks, everybody. We will hope to see you next month. We haven't gotten our topic nailed down yet, so if you have any suggestions, let us know. And meanwhile, enjoy the rest of the day. It's going to be a long day, as I said, but plenty of celebration and Bad Bunny to boot. So thanks again. See you all next time. I hope.
Take care, Rich.
Thanks, Richard.
Have a good week, man.
Thanks again.
Thank
you,
everybody.
Excellent, Richard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe.